Goalies, how are we doing today? We are back on the DIY Goalie podcast with your hosts, Nathan Park and Connor Monday. We have made it past 10 seconds and my webcam is on. We are doing great. So, we are in a much better mood today. We're going to have a lot more of a positive episode today. Building off of last week when we kind of talked about, if there is a goalie problem or a goaltending problem in Canada, more of a systemic problem. What we're going to do today is we're going to kind of talk about our personal thoughts on solutions to the issues that we brought up last week. Um, Before we get going, though, one thing I do want to shout out to the listeners because looking at the analytics, it's kind of cool to see where you guys are all listening from. So obviously we've got Canada and the US in 1, 2, but big shout out to Australia coming in at number 3 in Spotify, the UK at number 4, Luxembourg on 5, Sweden, New Zealand, Czechia, France, Ireland, Finland, India, Poland, Norway, Netherlands, Switzerland, Hungary. We're all over the place. It's kind of cool.
It's like Australia is such a weird place to be coming from.
Nah, the Australian Ice Hockey League is fire. I remember one time I was on a flight somewhere. I can't even remember where. And this was like years ago, back when Air Canada had like the built-in TVs that you could pick like preloaded shows and stuff like that. And for whatever reason, they had like the AIHL, the Australian Ice Hockey League final on there from like 3, 4 months earlier. So I watched that and that was pretty cool.
So it just seems like the most wild place
Yeah. So
to to get listenership from, but we appreciate it
yeah,
nonetheless.
shout out to the Aussies out there. All right. So we are going to get started into the episode today. So obviously last week we kind of brought up some stuff that we kind of think is a little bit lacking in terms of at least Canadian goaltending development. One thing I will say though is I actually ventured for the first time in a long time onto the Hockey Canada website, and there is 121 goalie drills loaded up on there. So shout out to you, Hockey Canada, because um, I last time I had been on the Hockey Canada website, which admittedly has been a while, there was like nothing. So trending in the right direction. Shout out to you guys for that. Now, what else can we do though? So we kind of touched on that a lot last week is the resources aspect of things. I think we need to be doing a better job, and this is kind of across the board for the goalie community. Just having access to quality resources when it comes to goaltending. So that's drills, that's, technique, resources for off ice, on ice, in terms of what we can do for, dry land, for cognitive training, for mental training, all of that stuff. So this can be accomplished by kind of two parties, I guess. So that it can be accomplished by the organizations out there, Hockey Canada, USA Hockey, and some are doing a better job of that than others. But the other thing too is, the private companies as well. So, the True North goaltendings of the world, the DIY goalies of the world, and there's lots of good people doing good things. I mean, obviously Coach Wops with increased performance and Goal Magazine, they're doing lots of good stuff. Jamie Phillips, goalie coaches, there's lots of stuff out there that is doing good. But I think in general, having more voices, just kind of giving their perspective, giving their ideas, and the more drills that we can have access to as goalies, the better. So that would kind of be my number one, is resources. And then before I let you hop in here, Connor, the one thing I will say that we definitely don't have enough resources for is just your regular run of the mill coach. And that's something that I think we need to do a better job of us included, to get stuff out there in the hands of regular coaches who want to do a better job for their goalies, but they just don't know how. So I think that's the biggest area of improvement when it comes to resources is how can we get, you know, coaches to understand how to run a practice for their goalies, how to get their players on the same page as their goalies for development, how to just provide them with the right amount of goalie time, how to deal with them when you have two goalies and, playing time and how to talk to them and all of that stuff. So I think that's definitely the number one area of improvement that we need to do as a goalie community when it comes to the resource side of things.
Well, I think you need to look at it in terms of just the ages of development. Um, like obviously with U9, U11, which would be novice Adam, you're not like your focus is more so on skating, just the technique of things, and you're starting to introduce tracking and head trajectory, and but your focus is for right then, anyways, is just making sure that they're good skaters, making sure that they, excuse me, work on the right edges and get their angles set, make sure that they have their hands off their body, and making sure that they're comfortable basically getting hit with the puck. As you progress to U13, U15, U18, U20, or whatever, then you start to introduce more of the technical aspect of it, if you will. I was thinking about it as you were talking about resources. I like what some places have, like DIY Goalie, for example, has the coach's handbook. Increased Performance has their coach's handbook of goalie development. And then obviously there's In Goal Magazine and, what's Brian DeCord's thing? Stop It Goaltending.
Another one that's good too is the Netminder app that Mark Byzantine does.
Right.
Because he actually their app has specific parents and coaches sections too for their stuff. So that's another good one.
The point that I'm trying to drive at though is that, again, and I've talked about this already for the last couple of episodes now, is that if you are going to have a designated coach, whether it be a proper goalie coach or a coach that has the unfortunate mishap, and I say that in loose terms, of having to be the goalie guy, then there has to be some kind of structure in place there. So resources like that is nice, but even then, just for the coaching staff as a whole, right? I talked about before in the first solo episode that I did with making sure that you have that your practice plan is set to be developing in all aspects of the team, right? And so I would say it's up to organizations such as us at True North Goaltending, that we almost need in a way to kind of put practice plans together that would be beneficial for either all aspects, or that would be beneficial for, hey, if you have 2 practices in the week, well, then half an hour of one of those practices designated for the goalies, and then and then we're the company, one of the companies that sends out that drill plan and says, hey, 15 minutes for skating, and then the last 15-25 for the actual for whatever it is that needs to be worked on, right? Nothing too crazy, nothing, excuse me, overly complicated. It's just focus on an angle and tracking drill. Just keep it simple to things like that. So I think it would really be dependent on the age level just what kind of practice plans that we can put together that would make it basically foolproof for the coaches.
Yeah, shameless plug. Um, every month when we do the DIY goalie like newsletter that we send out to our email list, we do include a practice plan with a bit of a theme for the month. By the time this airs, you guys will have missed out on October, the Halloween edition, I guess, October 31st. But if you guys want to hop in there, that is something we do every month. We include a little kind of, article that doesn't get on our website. So it's kind of exclusive to the email
I should
subscribers.
I should probably subscribe to that. I don't think I
You
am
you
actually.
probably should, yeah. And then, but yeah, we throw together a practice plan to send out as well. So you guys can do that just on our homepage, or I think you can go to the DIYgoalie.com/email, and that'll get you to be able to sign up to that.
But I
Um,
think but I think just like that's like kind of step one,
yeah,
is like Hockey Canada. I mean, I didn't see the 120 drills or practice plans or whatever that Hockey Canada had on their website when I briefly looked last time that we did this. But but I think the onus is on both Hockey Canada, Hockey Alberta, Hockey whatever,
yeah,
the federal, we'll call it federal, hockey association, whatever that may be, whether it's Canada, US, Australia, or also falls on uh, us as well in terms of um, private goalie companies. Now, with that being said, I mean, like I did kind of knock on them a little bit, but Hockey Alberta was kind of trending in that direction when they had their goaltending directors for the different sections of Alberta here, right? Ian Gordon being I think he's the central Edmonton, or he's just the Edmonton representative.
yeah.
I thought it was the guys at GDI who were Calgary's representative. That might have changed recently, but they do have representatives, we'll call it, kind of in the different sections of Alberta here, which is a good start, but not that I've really been paying attention, but nothing's, as far as I'm aware, has been happening beyond that other than tutorial videos or the most basic of drills that really can be done at any level, but I don't think are tailored specific to the specific levels of development.
Yeah, and that was kind of going to be my point after I plugged her email list. um, was just that I think, and from my understanding, this is something that Sweden does that is quite effective. I could be wrong. I'm not 100% sure, but this was my understanding on kind of how
You're
they run their goalie development.
you're probably wrong. You're always wrong.
Well, yeah, I mean, what can you do? My wife thinks so, anyways. um, but they seem to have like kind of a start to finish roadmap. So, once you're U7 or whatever, U9, whenever they start having kind of full time goalies, they, start almost like a roadmap, and they stick with their club because, like, from my understanding, the pro clubs kind of own the minor hockey stream. So they almost see it as a development program from grassroots level up to their pro, and run, like I said, a bit of a roadmap, with each age group and stuff like that. And I think that's one thing that I would like to see a lot more of when it comes to, at least here in Canada, probably in the States, you could argue a bit too, but I think they're doing a better job of it. So I know that the logistics of it probably aren't the greatest. It'd be hard to do, but I do think there'd be benefit in being able to lay out a roadmap that, you know, an organization, like teams within an organization, can follow. So, you're a U9 team, you're a U11 team, whatever. Here's our focus month by month. And here's how, like, here's some resources on how to, um, you know, tackle that road plan. Like, here's a practice plan to work on tracking because that's our focus for October or whatever, something along those lines. At least then it gives a general idea. And I know each team is going to be different with like how much they practice and the resources that they have available, how many goalies they have on their team, all of that stuff. But you can maybe have like two or three variations of it depending on, that I guess you could kind of pick and choose based off of your situation. So, it could be like, oh, you guys practice once a week. Okay, well, here's our plan. We're going to dedicate 45 minutes of one practice a month to goaltending while the players are doing something specific, like, I don't know, body contacts, stick handling in tight, whatever it is. And this is the practice plan you're going to work on. And I feel like that way we kind of get a little bit more consistency, and we actually have people know like what to expect or what to do, as opposed to, again, going to this goalie coach who hasn't worked with this goalie yet, so they don't know what to work with. And this goalie coach is now working on something else and whatever. It brings some consistency to it. And yes, you can still go to your outside private goalie coaches and get more refined teaching, but at least you have some sort of foundation and some sort of kind of basis that's built into your organization, um, just with the resources they're given and having, a quote unquote dedicated coach to goaltending that has a bit of an idea through some sort of certification program or course or whatever.
Some kind of like a theme of the month kind of deal,
Yeah,
right? So
which
hey,
is
this month we're going to focus going to be solely on rebound control or
yeah,
whatever, right? Or
which is
dead
kind of
angles.
what we've done for our um organizations that we run their goalie development for. We kind of give here's our month by month focus per age group, like when we do like weekly goalie sessions with an organization that brings us out with True North goaltending. Um, and to be honest, I think that that's something that would be very beneficial if an organization could provide that sort of roadmap and have a bit of detail to it too. Like we kind of saw, the month by month Hockey Canada slideshow there, but there wasn't a lot there. Like if you could have a little bit more detailed, drill a little deeper into it and just be like, we're working on this, and these are the key points for what we're working on. So, say the month is tracking. Okay. The key points is bringing the head down to contact, tracking off of contact, watching from the blade all the way to the body, getting the head down, all of that stuff. Like just basically break it down kind of into a few key points that you can focus on. And that at least gives some direction because it's, it obviously doesn't make sense to have really in depth goalie coaches for every single team, but to have somebody that at least gets a general basic knowledge, giving them a roadmap to follow with key points to look for, at least makes their job a little bit easier and at least kind of brings some consistency to that. So,
Would that then be on the shoulders then? Okay, so if there's so here month of November we're focusing on short side angles, let's call it. So would that be something then, like if an organization does hire an outside source such as us, right? And obviously we have our roadmap and how we provide things because almost all minor hockey associations should have a director of goaltending, right? Whether it be an actual director or a volunteer director. whoever. Wouldn't that be something that would fall on the director's shoulders? So then that information would still get relayed to all the teams, right? Or even let's go a step further. That would be something that either, let's say, the provincial, again talking here in Canada, that would either be something that the provincial or the federal hockey agency would should have provided on their website. Okay, Hockey Canada obviously has the PowerPoint presentation, which is good in some respect, but as you had mentioned, it doesn't fully encompass or fully detail or outline the specifications or the reason why behind it. But still, that would be a resource there. So if a minor hockey organization, let's say just one of the rural ones, doesn't have um, a goalie coaching agency that's nearby within close vicinity, um, wouldn't that be something then that would still be dependent on falling on the goalie director's shoulders that would be relayed to all of the teams? Now, it would depend on what the teams do with that information afterwards, but wouldn't that be something that would fall on the goalie director for minor hockey associations?
See, to me, I would say no, because the majority of goalie directors out there are volunteers, and a lot of times it's a goalie parent that takes on that role. At least in my experience, there's not like they're not bringing in, us or Ian Gordon or whoever from an outside organization to be their goalie director. It is somebody who, I mean, maybe they luck out and it is somebody who has an extensive knowledge of the
But I'm
position.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that it needs to be somebody that's going to be going in depth as us. If we're talking about resources, right? Wouldn't, like, it would be, let's say for example, we provide one of our one of our goalie agencies. We provide one of our hockey or my hockey organizations. That's the word I'm looking for. We provide them a roadmap. Here's a roadmap that we're going to be following when we come out with you guys once a month, but it would be recommended that this be directed to all the teams within your organization. Right now, I'm not asking the goalie director to break it down, explain it, um, basically hold a seminar on it. I'm not asking them to do that. I'm just saying, here is this resource that we are giving you so you can give to the team. The flip side of that is that should also be a resource at Hockey Alberta. Again, I'm name dropping these guys because they're just the first people that I think of. Hockey Alberta, Hockey Canada should have provided. So then whoever that goalie director is can go pick that from Hockey Alberta, Hockey Canada. If they don't have a goalie company nearby, whether they're a goalie parent or an actual goalie or not, I'm just saying that still would be something that I would think, and this is why I say yes, that I would think that should fall on the goalie director's shoulders with an organization, whether it be volunteership or not. That there's still resources out there for them to take, snatch, and um, provide them to the various minor hockey teams within their organization. I'm not asking them to run the classes themselves, right? I'm just saying, like, hey, here are these preloaded practice plans that are specific for these goalies, so that you can take to your practice and maybe dedicate one or two practices for the month to focus on the one specific thing that the goalie community with Hockey Alberta, Hockey Canada has outlined. You understand the
Yeah,
point that I'm trying to make there? So, like,
yeah,
I'm
like
like,
if
I
it's
I know that it's easier said than done, and I know I'm shooting for the stars on that one, but I'm thinking that, like, that's not an idea that should be that far off.
no, like if you're talking about strictly distribution, then yeah, that's definitely feasible. But that's what I'm saying is, like, I guess you need that resource to distribute. And the thing is I personally think if you just leave it up to the, I guess regional kind of local minor hockey organizations to get like a local goalie coaching company to build a plan for them. There's definitely nothing wrong with that. But then if we're talking about the systemic issue as a whole, you start to, run into inconsistencies, and you start to, potentially build holes in certain regions depending on what they have available. Like, to me, I think what would be a good approach to it is to get a couple experts from across like the country, right? Like, you put a board together, like a goaltending board together for Hockey Canada, where you get people from different regions around the country that are considered experts in the goaltending field, and collaborate for a few meetings, a few sessions, whatever the case is, to build a what we deem best practices for, a roadmap of goaltending. And that's something that once you build that resource, you can lean on it for years, and you can distribute it, and you can say, this is how we want to approach our goalie development in all the organizations that fall under our umbrella. Here's a roadmap for it. Here are the key points, the focus points. Here's the practice plans for it, and all of that stuff. And on top of that, if you can provide the resource to your coaches, like, goalie level 1 or bronze or whatever you want to call it, that you make every team have at least one coach mandated to take that. Now, all of a sudden, you have a systemic approach that can be consistent and that actually has, some meat to it, some value to it, where now you're saying across the board, our goalies should be getting this if people are doing their jobs. And we know what to expect now as these goalies get into U15, U18, whatever. They should have this specific foundation, right? And to me, that's kind of, again, I know the logistics of it. Like, it's not an easy task, and it's gonna be hard to do, but to me, it's doable. And all it really takes is just a bunch of people willing to get behind, the greater goal, I guess, and put the work in almost just once, right? And then revisit it every couple of years to make tweaks. But realistically, the big daunting task is doing it the first time and building it out. And then once you've done that, like, that's kind of the hard part. And to me, you can lean on that for a while. That's just my personal thought on it as to how you can really start to make a solid systemic approach to consistent goalie development.
I think you and I are speaking the same language on that. I think we just both have different ideas, or maybe we do have the same ideas, but we're articulating it differently.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, because then to your point, then the goalie directors for each organization can then distribute it to their coaches, make sure their coaches have, the proper certifications for goaltending, and then just follow up, right?
Yeah, it's just that's but yeah, that like that's essentially just what I'm voting for here
Yeah.
is just like whether we if the governing bodies don't want to do it, which they should, and I believe that they will, then it would be up to organizations such as us to make sure that that roadmap gets distributed, right? Um, it's it's a give and take, I guess, because again, like we're talking about this in like a perfect world. Like obviously, not everybody's going to follow to what we to what we say or what we believe, but I think just there has to be a ball rolling on it, and whether it's
Yeah.
us that does it or whether it's guys like Daniel Waffle that does it with increased performance, Ian Gordon, whoever, that has to be there has to be something, right? That goes with that. Um, yeah, pick and choose your battles, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. I mean, yeah, you're always going to have people that, you know, don't do as good of a job of following or
Yeah.
whatever. But at least then the majority, because the biggest issue I think when it comes to goalies and, the lack of development and kind of the isolation and all of that stuff is just the lack of people that know the position, the lack of people
Mm.
that understand what goes into the position, how to teach it, all of that stuff. And to me, if you can kind of get over that ignorance hump, like where they just don't know, the majority of people, I think, do want to have their goalies succeed. So I think the majority of people just don't know how. And if you can provide, like, again, that roadmap, or if you just say, this is how we as an organization want to approach our goalie development, I feel like the majority of people are going to be like, oh, that's great. You know, I want to help. I just don't know how, but now I know how, or at least have a general kind of idea, at least of a direction to go down. Um, because like we talked about last week, kind of the two thought processes are either I don't know anything about goaltending, so I'm not even going to touch it. Or this is how goalies played when I played, but that's 20 years outdated, and I'm trying to teach my goalies that, but that's not really how things work, right?
Yeah.
So I do think in general, people want to be a part of the solution. There's just no like real across the board general solution. And again, it's going to take commitment. It's going to take a bit of an overhaul. It's going to take some of these organizations to make some tough decisions and to actually maybe mandate some stuff um, for, coaches within their organizations. But at some point, there has to be a bit of a change to actually see any positive, you know, effect. So I don't know. Like again, I don't have 100% of the answers. I don't know, what goes on behind closed doors with these organizations. And obviously there's logistics issues with some of this stuff, but at some point to make a change, you just got to make the change.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's kind of
Oh,
my thing on the approach to it, I guess.
yeah. I don't. I don't disagree with you there. I think just again, I'm beating dead horse at this point.
Yeah.
I just like there has to be some type of structure, and I don't know if I'm all for like a universal structure because obviously my approach might be different compared to Curtis Muka or Ian Gordon or
Yeah.
Steve McKeegan or whoever, right? It's just as long as there's a general idea, right,
Yeah.
and then how we progress with it.
And you can
I
even just use that roadmap for the foundational stuff, and the
Yeah,
more advanced stuff, it's kind of give and take. Pick your goalie coach and whatever. But that's why I kind of like the idea of like a goalie board of experts, so they can come together and have some collaboration on. Yes, we think this is, you know, the best way that we all kind of can agree on to approach this. And there are going to be some nuances to that. But again, and we don't have to do this for, like post play and RBH and stuff, because there's so many different processes behind that. But when it comes to skating, when it comes to positioning, when it comes to tracking, save execution, all of that stuff is pretty standard across the
yeah.
board when it comes to
It's
goalie
yeah, it's
coaches.
yeah, it's yeah, it's just here's a general drill. Here's the points to be touched on. Have at her.
Yeah. And that's just it, right?
Right.
Um, the other thing too, though, I would like to see a little bit of a better job of is putting out resources off the ice for goalies, like, and probably players in general too, but specifically for goalies. Like, we've talked lots on the podcast about how much of a difference cognitive training can make. And yet very few people still. I mean, it's getting more popular, it's gaining more traction and all that stuff, but there's still very few people out there that even know what that is and how to do that, right? And so that's another thing I'd like to see a little bit more of, is if we can kind of push some of that stuff on, you get more stuff like what Maria Mountain puts out, get more cognitive training drills, get more stretching and strength and flexibility drills that are designed for hips and core and adductors and groins and all that stuff. Um, Again, the logistics of that are a little bit harder, but just working with somebody who is an expert in that field to put together, hey, here's, 6, 7 videos on, you know, how to strengthen your hips, how to strengthen your core, or anything like that, right? Just having that extra kind of off ice resource that wasn't there or doesn't really seem to be there before. And again, I know there's lots of people doing it, the Maria Mountains of the world, but that's something that a lot of people still don't know exists. And just even sharing it out there to be like, hey, these are things you can do, and here are some places to find resources to that.
I think, and I'm gonna kind of flip the script on this. I think um the flip side of that is, or just kind of in relationship to that, kind of already what we talked about with the last point, is just there needs to be more interactivity, more
Yeah.
advertisement
Yeah.
when it comes to that. I mean, we talked about it last podcast, and we'll say the same thing here. Hockey Alberta, Hockey Canada are absolutely friggin' atrocious when it comes to promoting anything when it comes to development. It's
Yeah.
no, it's true, right? Like it's always like, oh, here's the rosters for Team Alberta, for Team Blue, or whatever. Hey, here's what we're doing to promote women in sport, which great, fantastic. But in terms of any development side of things, there's f all. There really is, right? So I think that's the other thing that I would like to see, is just I would like to see more, whether it's bi-weekly, monthly. I'd like to see more promotional or more advertisement aspects when it comes to development. And I'm not just talking about just for goaltending. I'm talking about for all areas of the position, all areas of the sport, rather. Forwards,
Yeah.
defense, goaltending, off ice stuff, like you said, right? So I think that's maybe that's where the root of it is that there's a lack thereof. Um, Promotional items of advertisement um, avenues that organizations, whether it be at a minor hockey level, a provincial or a federal hockey level, um, I don't know. Maybe that's it.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, is like, with how things are today, like, there's, it's so easy to connect people, right? Like, with the technology that we have. So to me, like, you could put together the members that are signed up, like, through your organization. Like, I know, you get like a Hockey Canada number or whatever when you register through your minor hockey organization, and you get people's data with that. You get, their email addresses and whatever. And, to me, like, you could do something like that where you put out, like, however frequently you put out a kind of roundup email with resources and kind of like, themes with the month and whatever, and upcoming events and all of that stuff, right? Like, that's kind of something that's a lot easier to do nowadays. But yeah, like, I don't even know if Hockey Canada does it, but USA Hockey now has the goalie symposium that they do annually. And to me, that'd be something cool. Like, if Hockey Canada did something like that, I'd go. or I'd want to go,
But
right?
I'm looking at it more of the fact that like what is what are what is Hockey Canada doing? What is Hockey Alberta doing? What are we doing to promote these resources or to promote these yeah, let's go resources that we have. Nathan, I'm going to kind of throw you under the bus here, and I'm sorry, not sorry. I know that we've been busy, obviously, with dealing with
Yeah.
the facility stuff and True North and everything that goes on in our day jobs. What are we doing to promote development? I know that we've been busy, and I know that
Yeah.
like we have the Facebooks, we have the Instagrams, we have the TikTok. Let's be real, man. It's been radio silence from us, and it's not that we're trying to be. It's not that we're bad at doing it. It's just we get busy, and obviously everybody understands that. But the same question goes for the federal organizations. USA Hockey is obviously doing a better job with that, and I don't follow them a whole lot, but I mean I hear a lot about the symposium right through us through In Goal magazine, and even in some of the more goalie coaches or goalie academies that I follow on Facebook, Instagram in the States, right? So obviously it's getting out there again. Barely hear anything right
Yeah.
from us in the north here, right? So it's just again the onus being on us as a goalie agency on the provincial and the federal levels of hockey development, specifically when it comes to goaltending or specifically when it comes to development in general, to actually go out and promote this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Obviously we did tons of promotion when it came to the facility opening this past Sunday as of recording, right? But what do we have down the pipe beyond that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, and
And
that's
it's like,
fair.
yeah.
And like I've said it in the last few episodes a couple times that you know, I have admitted that the DIY goalie stuff has been on the back burner, and it has been for a little while now. That's the one problem is, unfortunately, like, content takes quite a bit to make. Like, even last week's episode, so episode came out Tuesday. Today we're recording Wednesday evening.
Mm-hmm.
By now I already wanted to have a couple TikTok clips from that episode like ready and posted, and it hasn't happened. Like, to be fully transparent, I'm not even fully finished the monthly newsletter that goes out tomorrow. Now it will get done and it will go out, but I yeah, I would like to do a much better job. I just haven't gotten to the point yet that I can. And it's unfortunate because I do think you guys deserve more and deserve better. And not just from us, but kind of from the goalie community in general. That being said, there are still lots of good resources and lots of good stuff out there to take advantage of. Lots of good people doing good things. But yeah, like that's why it would be nice to have some sort of like, organizational structure provided by the bigger umbrella that's working with these organizations, because their full-time gig is development, right? For me, unfortunately, the DIY goalie is kind of more of a hobby. And so the day job, the family, True North goaltending, those kind of take, precedent,
Yeah.
unfortunately. I'm hoping to get rid of the day job at some point so that I could do this full time and focus on it more. But the organizations, their full time gig is developing the players within their organization. So, however that looks, they should be prioritizing that. And that's kind of like, and that's why I wanted to do this episode to follow up with last week, is to kind of spitball, I guess, our thoughts and ideas as to how we can improve things so that, we can kind of back up, I guess, our criticisms a little bit.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah, and
can,
again, like I'm not like I wasn't actually trying to
oh,
put
yeah,
you on blast there, but
no,
the point, like the point's obviously there,
yeah.
right?
And I'll
Is
be the
that
first to admit that too,
yeah,
right? Like, I mean, unfortunately, shout out to anyone who might want to, hop on as a content creator and as a hobby, not get paid by it, you know. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely room for improvement there on our part as well. And we're by no means perfect and have all the answers, but I do think, I guess the big theme from these two episodes is just that there needs to be that conversation, and we need to start all kind of looking around and in the mirror and seeing what it is that we can do, how we can come together, and how we can make a better plan to support our goalies. Because it is sad, the state of goaltending. And yes, it's gotten better, but it's still like so many parents are like, oh, my kid isn't even getting anything at practice. They're just getting 5-on-0s for an hour and they hate their life, right? Like, goalies deserve better. You guys deserve better.
yeah.
So, but I don't know. That's just my thing. I guess, you know, we're we're in 2 episodes along this theme. We might revisit it down the road and kind of get back into some of the things we can do and all that stuff. But I do think the first step is a conversation. I do think the first step is to start making things uncomfortable for ourselves and for everybody and trying to figure out how to mess with the status quo, because the status quo is definitely not working, and starting to try and make some change to that. So that's kind of, I think, where we're at. We probably could just go around in circles for the next 2 hours. but uh, but yeah, I don't know if you have any parting thoughts. We'll maybe start wrapping this up a little bit.
Uh, no, I think I've said all that I needed to say. But yeah, you're right. It starts with the conversation, and obviously actions speak a lot louder than words. So whether it's us that starts moving the ball or whoever it is that starts that starts moving the ball and starts having those conversations. Again, I think getting guys like Daniel Wappel, who's been heavily criticism of minor hockey
Yeah.
development, just again having that conversation, I think is obviously important. And then whoever it is that starts to start taking steps to put a development plan in place that would be considered universal, start doing up the drafts for it, and start taking one step forward at a time. Obviously, it's not going to be pretty, it's not going to be fun, but it's a step, and somebody's got to take it. And I think it's True North. Maybe that takes the first step. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, how about this? Well, because it's on my list. It's been on my list for a little bit here. Um, and we'll put it out there so that now I have to be held accountable for it. And Connor too. I'm gonna rope him into this.
Oh, great!
um, I do want to put together on our course platform a free course, a free introductory course for regular coaches that can just take and get basic info on goaltending and how to run goalie practices and how to talk with their goalie. Basically, our goalie handbook, but a little bit expanded in like a course and video form. So I will put a year timeline on that. So by this time next year, at the very latest, I'm hoping to do it before that, but at least now we have a deadline and we will have that out. The production is going to be very low because I don't have a lot of capital to invest in in the
Nathan
bunch of
doesn't have a
videos.
$10,000 setup like I do, so
No, so that's why Connor's going to be the tech guy. But
yeah,
yeah, there you go. That'll be our action and our actionable item. And now we have it on blast. And
on record.
yeah, so you can at me on October 30th, 2025, or I guess by the time this airs, it'd probably be what, November 3rd or something like
Yeah.
that, whatever Tuesday is. But there you go. So thanks for tuning in, guys. As always, you can reach out at the info at the DIYgoalie.com. Send us questions, comments, criticisms, put us on blast. I don't care. Um, follow follow us on YouTube, on Facebook, on TikTok, on Instagram, and I will try and do a better job of posting content to those. You guys can also leave us a rating and a review if you like what you're hearing on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, or whatever other platform you listen to, because that helps us also reach more goalies. Um, at least we've been consistent on the podcast, so that's something that we
Yeah.
can hang our hat on.
Yeah.
So this would be episode
um,
30.
damn.
30
Look
episodes
at
going
that.
strong. So, but anyways, guys, thanks a bunch. We will sign off for tonight and
Make some saves.
see you next Tuesday. Make some saves.